Welcome to the Connected Media Podcast, and I'm your host, Jules Nadlin. Today I'm talking with Marcello Gartana and Simon Oliver of Tennis. We're going to be discussing how businesses can connect with clients online, how to identify your audience, how to use data for smarter strategies, and they're going to share tips for building websites that really engage people and get results. Welcome, Marcello and Simon from Tennis. I am so excited to have you here on the Connected Media Podcast, and we're just going to jump right into it. I want to know all about you, your business, what started it, and anything you want to share to our listeners and viewers who may not actually know about you.
Okay, perfect. I'll jump in first.
Yeah, jump in. Hot seat.
So, we own a business called Tennis. It's a B2B website and product design and development company. So a lot of our clients are in the B2B space. We're working primarily on helping them figure out this wonderful thing called the internet and how they can actually engage with their clients in a better way, in many different ways. Sometimes it's just marketing through a better website. Sometimes it's product user experience. We work with a pretty wide range of businesses from I'd say medium to enterprise space across a couple key industries. But yeah, we're kind of diverse in who we work with.
Usually when I frame it to people out in public, I just call ourselves like a boutique Accenture or a boutique Deloitte. I think, because when we talk about consulting or B2B web design and product development, sometimes it's just blank stares if they don't get it. So I do find that if you mention those big names, but the smaller, more hands-on scale, that's a really good way of framing at least how we are and how we build our client relationships as well.
But with a focus on tangible outputs. So some sort of product, digital-based product.
Digital-based. So websites, is there anything else in your field of specialties you do?
Like websites, products, web applications, and then all the supporting sort of thinking, features, growth, technology decisions. It's a complicated world out there when it comes to technology. And so, we often work with organizations that don't have that level of technology experience or capability in-house. So we're kind of like the guide and the designer and builder.
So you're steering the ship for them and helping them in the direction they need to go. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about client engagement strategies, because that's sort of our focus for today's podcast. When you've met with your client and you're doing your kickoff, how do you help them identify their clients? Because that's a big question for me too. I'm curious, as someone who's just a user, how do you get to that point? How do you find their clients?
So I'll jump in there just because I've run the process and operations side. So it's pretty high touch with the clients at that point. And the kickoff for us, it's honestly really just administrative, setting the project governance in place. There's always so many questions about how we operate, reinforming the client about the process, since at the end of the sales cycle, everyone's forgotten all of that. They're excited just to start working together. So that one is a little bit of a level set. But everything about the engagement really starts when we do our workshops, which is part of our think phase. Okay. So the think phase is a lot of effort, a lot of workshops involving client stakeholders. We walk them through a series of canvases to start asking them questions about their audience. For us, we call it audience. We changed the vocabulary a little bit because it generalized it a bit rather than clients.
Right.
We chose audience because we work with nonprofits. Nonprofits don't always have a client per se. So it's just our way of operationalizing even the language within our process. But I could go on for so long about the little details, but
we won't get to any of the other questions. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so we start with the audience and we ask questions about pain points.
Right.
Understanding the audience goals and needs. And we jot all of that down in a canvas in this interactive workshop. But one of the things that we do that's a little bit different from what we've seen is we have the audiences tiered from primary, secondary to tertiary. And primary audience is who do you actually serve? Like, if this person didn't exist, your business wouldn't exist. So who is that? It gets them really focused on answering that question.
And those questions come from their internal stakeholders.
They're internal stakeholders at that point. Yeah.
Okay.
We do have some clients that let us access external stakeholders or partners, but that's not always the case.
Okay.
And sometimes that's all the work that we do. Like some projects are so complicated that, well, there's a little bit more to that. That's the audience side of it. As part of that sort of scope of the part of the project, there's also technical direction, creative direction. Basically, we want to end that think phase with a very concrete plan so that we all know where we're going, because the sales process is short compared to the length of an actual engagement. And so, usually when we start, we are starting with a view of what the project is. It's not the total view, because otherwise we would have to spend days doing this work before we even actually start an engagement. So it's a view of what the project is. So the think phase is very important to identify all the things that Simon mentioned, along with what's the actual plan, what is the blueprint. And there's a pretty wide range of complexity in this world. And so if we get the sense that a project is too complex to be taking on completely in one go, we'll basically refuse to do the full work and say, listen, let's just focus on the think phase and really like define what it is we're building, because oftentimes it doesn't actually sound like clients know what it is that they're trying to do, or the variables are just so big in everything they're asking for that we actually need to spend a lot of time getting very concrete about what it is that they're asking for. So that phase is, a big part of it is about audience engagement and audience goals and needs and things like that. And a big part of it is also just the creative and technical direction and approach.
Okay. I'm going to bounce back to something that I heard on one of your podcasts, because I love that you guys have your own podcast. I'm pitching you here. When I was asking you questions about the stakeholders or the ones giving the opinion, it made me think of what I think it was Simon that said, the hippo effect.
Oh yeah,
that the highest paid person drives the roadmap, and as soon as you said that, it was like a light bulb moment for me. I'm like, so when you're in that engagement with the audience that you're trying to define them, do you ever work with like outside agencies where they're doing surveys and stuff like that, or is it just specifically from the stakeholders?
We have engaged, like, depending on the scale of the project, we do engage external agencies. Sometimes there's even external consultants that the client works with and wants to help with the engagement. Surveys are great because they're anonymized, and sometimes we convince the client to send that out directly to their users or audience. Yeah. And that's always a big win for us.
Yeah. I'm a big advocate of the front line is where you need to get your information from. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, yeah. Sure. No, that's exactly the point. Like the front line, who's actually using it, people on the floor who are actually doing some of the independent contributor work. It's so important to hear those perspectives. So when we get an opportunity like that, it's always great, but oftentimes it is largely director level, manager level, C-suite who's in the room.
Right.
But we supply them with homework to take away and start asking their own staff questions to bring to the table.
Great.
So the one thing I really like about our process is it's facilitated from the moment it starts. From the moment we send the homework, it gets them thinking about more of a human-centric approach to information gathering. And then during the workshop, we avoid that whole hippo effect because we're the facilitators. If someone's silent on the call, you can be sure that we're calling on people individually and trying to bring them into the fold so that we're not just hearing a singular voice.
You are literally the teacher in the room and the kid in the back that's being quiet with their homework.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to add one thing
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Actually, I think like the sort of challenging but also awesome part of services businesses is that clients are so different and client industries are so different. They kind of have their own characteristics, but they're also very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that the hippo acronym tends to show itself up a little bit more in the product space versus like the
Okay.
corporate world, because they're smaller decisions, and oftentimes the highest paid person in the room is the founder or the executive in the product company. So they're also very emotionally invested in the work, and they're also under pressure to drive revenue. So oftentimes those
Mm-hmm.
feature requests, the ones that get prioritized, are specifically tied to revenue. So it's just an interesting characteristic that I just kind of wanted to add, that is very product specific versus the corporate web and web application world.
Okay. When we're talking about building out that website and connecting with, say, someone who's selling product or service, how do you foster emotional and psychological connections between its brand and its audience?
It's a great question. I'm going to let Simon start on that one
Oh,
first.
wow. I was going to kick it to you.
Oh, you're going to kick it to me?
Dang.
Okay.
You're
How do you
volleying,
foster-
you're
Okay,
volleying it back
you know
to
what?
him.
I think we have such different perspectives on some of this stuff. This will be an interesting one, I think.
Okay, go.
Yeah.
So, okay, can you just repeat the question one more time?
Absolutely. So
I just want to make sure I'm getting the points.
in the digital world, web development, we all talk about UX and stuff. How do you foster emotional and psychological connections between a brand and its audience,
It's good
product
question.
or service?
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's two sides to that. There's the strategy side, and then there's the execution side. So, how do you do that from a design perspective? There's a lot of little things that I think maybe Simon probably has some opinions on in terms of design and brand interaction and web interaction, things like that. On the sort of like corporate strategy side, I think it starts way earlier, and it's an ongoing practice that should be happening all the time. And part of it is really just understanding, I call it client intimacy, but basically just understanding who your ideal client profile is really, really intimately. So understanding, not just the functional parts of that, what are their jobs, what problems are they trying to solve, but also the emotional parts. And then starting to create a fandom or a community around your target audience by engaging them where they are, which is typically online, in some sort of way through what we're doing right now. Is one form of that, right? We're creating content that we think people could find useful in our space, which is one form of creating that sort of like brand emotional connection to an audience, and not selling, but actually helping to educate and creating resources and things like that. I think that's how you start to create that community effect around your brand. And then, how that plays out in the actual interaction digitally is really more of like a creative and development and technology result, I think.
I do completely agree with you. I don't think in this day and age we don't want to sell. We want to service. We want to address
totally.
Issues, pain points, needs, and stuff like that. And if you speak to them with genuine and being authentic, and you're not trying to sell them something,
totally,
there's a better chance of that touch point where you can capture them and get that emotional and psychological connection.
Yeah, and I think there's like great examples out there, and there's lots of companies that have these like fandoms or these communities, and every company's like, oh, like I'd love that, but they don't realize the amount of work and the amount of over a long period of time it takes to actually create these communities, and there needs to be value, right? Like, 'cause there's no value, people are not interested in. So, and how do you create the value? You have to understand what it is that you're providing, what problem you're trying to solve ultimately. And
that literally goes back to identifying your client.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the whole idea of community building is interesting because a lot of brands these days are really trying to leverage that. They understand the power of building a community. you see it way more on the B2C side, like on consumer products.
Yeah.
You know, if you're selling running gear, you're going to set up a running club, you're going to have a running WhatsApp, and like you're going to have all of this stuff. It's a little bit harder when you're selling a SaaS product like Salesforce and you want people to like rally behind you as part of the community. And they do. I mean, it's Salesforce, but you know, it's just a harder thing to do at the B2B stage. So I think there is a distinction there, but they're trying, and you see this happening often with Reddit. Lots of these SaaS platforms they're moving towards this build in public, founder-led marketing, Reddit posting, Reddit AMA kind of thing to try to establish authenticity, that there's people behind the brand. So it's spidering out as more of this network of touch points rather than the old world of marketing, which was funneling people.
Right.
So for us, like we think of the website as this hub, and then everything else is the spoke. All of the other marketing and engagement activities are those things that can draw people back into the brand, where design starts to speak the brand language, reinforce the storytelling, offer moments of recognition for your clients, like highlighting pain points, things like that. But the one thing I see brands doing the best to strike both like a bit of functionality and emotion at the same time is buyer enablement tools. So those are like a calculator to calculate what replatforming my new website is going to cost. Or for us, we have a accessibility checker on our website that we can send clients to and prospects so that they can check their own accessibility on their own terms and go through the whole experience. That's what we call buyer enablement. I mean, we don't call it that. I think plenty of other organizations do. But when you do that, it builds a better bridge of recognition between a client need, client need, and then what you're offering.
I know that it wasn't sort of planned in our conversation, but do you want to talk a little bit about accessibility?
It's great. It's an under-recognized, undervalued thing within the domain, especially in the architecture, engineering, construction space, I'd say.
Interesting. Okay.
You see it crop up more in B2C just because the volume is there, but B2B suffers the exact same penalties. We were speaking with someone about having to sell in the US. And if you want to sell in the US, you need to have your website ADA compliant. So there's AODA in Ontario, Ontario specific, the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. And then there's the ADA in America, Montreal? American Disabilities Act. Yeah. But the difference between the two is it's so, trying to leave politics out of it, it's so American versus Canadian.
Okay.
Like, the Canadian approach is the government will serve you a notice, and then you'll have a bunch of time to remediate your website. In America, the public just sues your organization into oblivion.
Glad we're in Canada.
Yeah.
Well,
but it's
there are some nuances.
Kind of.
For instance,
Yeah.
the penalties are only for companies with more than 50 employees. So there's an expectation.
Good to
Although
know.
I guess in the US, there's no tiering, right?
There's no tiering.
I believe there are
I
maybe
can't remember.
some nuances there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we just think like it does force people to action accessibility with a little bit more urgency in the US versus Canada. So while businesses feel a little bit more protected here because of how slow the government moves with this stuff, the work I've always felt is actually getting done in the US because it's not a penalty, it's a lawsuit.
Yeah.
And they tend to win. So
Okay. So there's a little bit more lighting the fire to move forward on something like that.
yeah. So if you're an advocate, then the US model definitely, shows its teeth a lot better.
Okay. I'm going to loop back to what we were actually talking about, which is engagement. I'm always the one that takes us down on a different rabbit hole. So when we talk about an engaging website, or platform, can you describe what it really looks like? Is that a crazy question? We're not. It's not like you can pull up a picture or something right now in the conversation.
The short answer is that it's different for every organization.
Different for every organization.
They really need to understand how they're using. So there's engagement from an audience perspective, but also from an administration perspective. Like how's your internal team using the website? If adoption is really low and none of your marketing strategies are being executed, it's probably because it's a bad experience. It's a bad platform to use, and that happens often. So you really need to just understand, like, how do we want to be using this website, and how do we want to grow the website as a tool to return investment on marketing over time. And then just really understanding your customers and understanding, like, what are they trying to do? Like, what do they actually need to do? And for some sites, it's very simple. For some sites, it's very complicated. If you think of like any association, a lot of the association member services are hosted through the website. So things like membership fees, history, billing, learning, certification, so it ranges, and it's really dependent on the client. As a side note, we actually do have a bunch of really good templates, because I did a presentation in North Carolina last summer on this topic, and we've got a sort of microsite with a bunch of templates that people can actually go and just download and work through, and they're templates for really identifying your client pain points and all of the stuff that we've previously talked about. So I'll share that link with you after.
Okay, and that's accessible to anybody. It's not gated.
Yeah. No.
Okay, share that with me, and I'll make sure we put that in the show notes.
Cool.
As well, so everybody who's listening or watching can actually click that and download.
Work through those worksheets, and you'll have a way better understanding of your client than before.
Simon, do you have anything to add on this topic?
For sure. Just a side note, we should send the accessibility link as well.
Yeah,
yes,
we can send that too. So that one is not gated, but you do have to put in information, because we need your website URL, your name, your email address to actually give you the information. So, but I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory that, like, we need some information to audit your website, right? But it's automated.
So how can you tell your digital experience is working well once you get to that point, once you've launched it?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to some of the stuff Marcello just mentioned about what makes an engaging website. You have to know, like, why you have a website at all,
right?
And, like, what the purpose of the content is, what you want users to be doing and actioning. All the calls to action are really important. So once you understand the rationale and the reason behind the website, then you can understand the KPIs that you need to track a little bit better. So things like, high intent pages, they might have high traffic, but they might not be getting engagement. So we see that a lot. Clients confuse traffic with engagement. So you really want to be looking a little bit deeper, like, how many pages are these users actually hitting up? What's the engagement duration per page? Were there any triggers hit from the calls to action? The volume of traffic is kind of meaningless if they're not going to the right spots.
Right.
You can have great traffic, great ranking, but if your prospects or audience are not going to the right areas or the right sequence of areas, then it's kind of useless. They're coming and then leaving.
Yeah.
So I think that's something important. And then leads are a little bit of a weird one, because people don't like forms. Like,
yeah,
you do get people to submit forms, but people do forms wrong often. They have too many fields. They think getting the first name and the last name and then the email, phone number, company, the more information, the better. But really, the more fields you have, the higher likelihood someone's never going to fill that form out.
The disconnect, this is too much work.
And sometimes just having a link to book a meeting is plenty good. Like,
right.
That's actionable. When you fill out a form, what are we doing? Are you going to email me? Are we going to have an email exchange? Booking a meeting shows much more intent.
Absolutely.
So I think that's a
There's
pretty
also, like,
explicit.
functional KPIs, like we've talked to companies that talk about, and these are maybe some more internal metrics, but we've talked to companies that are like, we would designate 40 hours a month of waste on just time spent trying to do stuff with our website that doesn't need to be that way because it's so complicated. And they themselves are telling us, if we ask the question, that, typically we're wasting 40 hours a month on trying to wrangle this technology. So that's a huge impact if you can cut that down to zero waste. And then there's also other like functional KPIs, like, if you're an association, or again, on the more complex side of the web experience, like how many clicks does it take for someone to do something on your website? So to find the certification they're looking for, or find the information or the conversion that they're looking for, sometimes it's like a gigantic obstacle to actually get to where you need to be on websites and products. And they have that feedback from clients. And then you notice that, if you can shrink that and there's less frustration, engagement almost immediately goes up. Time spent on the site goes up, like everything goes up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like you just reminded me of one of our existing clients. They have a service team to help for support. So one of the metrics is less support calls. So if someone can't find what they're looking for, or like something's broken, they don't want to hear it, right? So it's a good sign of a healthy system.
Okay.
But there's one other thing to build on. Like Marcello is coming at it from a completely different viewpoint from me, which is great. It's very layered. I just want to bring it back to the data as well that might be valuable to a company. We're starting to see websites. The website is also a data collection tool for all of these like go-to-market sales signal toolings that can actually help your sales team as well if you have a sales team. So things like the ability to de-anonymize a company coming to your website. If you submit an RFP to the Canadian government and then you see that the Canadian government's visiting your site, you can get that granular. Obviously, if they've accepted the cookie policy, you'll see it for compliance reasons. But there's all of these sales signals that you can use to better understand the intent for potential sales opportunities. And we're really trying to emphasize this to our own customers because right now they're flying blind without this technology and sales signal. So how does that connect to their CRM? How does it connect to their socials and their other marketing initiatives, and tying it all together with the website to better understand their prospects and their leads?
What do you think? How do you see the evolution of websites and digital platforms for 2026 and moving forward? Do you have any predictions? Have you got your crystal ball out for me?
Oh, we did an episode on this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just send people to that podcast. We won't repeat it.
Oh no, I mean we're happy to go through it. I wonder if it's even top of mind. Marcello, do you want to go first? What are your predictions?
Like 2026 is very short term, so I think that like go to market, the like combination of I think in the short term, a deeper, what I see as a trend is a deeper connection between a website, SEO, AEO, so artificial AI, engine optimization, and then go-to-market strategy and technology. Like all of those things are getting closer, intertwined into the website, and then the website becomes really like a funneling data point for sales and marketing. Simon talked about this a little bit already, but I think like 3 years ago this was not a thing at all. We've been following it very closely because we've been very interested in it. Obviously, as a business of our size, like you're trying to be efficient with how you approach sales and marketing. And so these tools are just incredible. And there's so much tooling and workflows being set up right now around the whole go-to-market tech side that is incredible. And, the goal is basically to surface enough data and insights so that your sales teams can really focus on high intent leads versus trying to boil the ocean, like, and doing the spray and pray approach where you just talk to everyone.
Yeah.
So that stuff's getting really interesting. Again, like I said, I think 3 years ago it was not even a conversation, and over the last 3 years, it's like unbelievable how far it's progressed. And yeah, with AI and content generation, it's just like all of it is becoming a really strong ecosystem for sales data and sales approach. I think that's just going to become more and more and more integrated into the website, and the website's going to be sort of like the central hub for that sort of data. That's my prediction. But I think it'll be a lot longer than 2026. I think, honestly, it takes so long for companies to adopt some of this stuff, and especially the bigger the organization. So, we're doing a lot of trying to promote this because clients are still trying to figure it out. But yeah, like it's just such an interesting time because companies like ours are becoming more than, we used to be just website design.
Right.
And over the years, it's become more and more and more and more about like, how does the website fit into a larger strategic growth engine? And the future of that, I think, is just going to continue expanding the scope of work that we do within organizations.
And different verticals also, have different perspectives on what a website should be. I mean, I've been told that the ACE industry, did I get that acronym wrong?
AEC.
It's sorry, dyslexia.
Right.
That they're slow on the uptake. They're not modern, and they're sort of archaic in the understanding of, and I hope I'm not offending anybody who's listening in the industry. They have a less tech savvy and don't update their website as often. And there's a bit of shift, what I understand, in that industry, especially with AI coming into place with the whole industry. And
there's like a cycle. We see this a lot. Like at one point in time, the insurance world, we constantly talked about insurance digital products. Like they were so bad. The user experience was terrible. They were miles behind. And then, it takes one company to make a change in their digital strategy, and they shoot ahead in terms of user experience, and then everyone else is sort of catching up, and then the whole industry norm changes. And that just continues to shift through
in different industries,
the market. So, and also like, there's different organizations of different sophistication within each industry. So it really just depends, but there are trends that we see sometimes. And sometimes the trend is the overall digital experience is terrible within this industry. They will never work with us because they just don't see the value of doing the work. And then 5 years later, everything's changed. And sometimes it's like a larger macroeconomic force that forces these companies to make that change, right? And different industries go through different cycles, so it's not always specific to one, but we do see that happen quite often.
Well, AEC, like they're going through quite a big downturn at the moment because they've just been hit from every angle. So I think that's forcing them to look at how they can diversify.
Exactly.
Because a lot of them were just stuck doing education, civic, residential, and just that. They never diversified. So it's a bit of a race right now. But what we've seen that's very, very specific to that industry, because it's kind of design adjacent, is that a lot of them want to design their website exclusively as a portfolio and to be like this big show of personality and aesthetics. And we're trying to navigate the waters with them because we're emphasizing that they should be designing their site for the businesses that they are targeting. But instead, they're designing the sites for other architects.
Right.
I ran into an architect in Mexico City. I won't mention which firm he's with, but one of the bigger ones. And as soon as I said we work with architecture firms, he's like, how many times do you have the conversation about designing the site for their business audience versus architects? And I had felt so seen hearing that from another architect. that it was great. But yeah, it's always an ongoing conversation about the balance between aesthetics and business in that sector.
If someone was looking at their website and they need to take that first step on to improve their engagement, do you have any like suggestions, like any guides you want to share right now?
Yeah,
Oh.
I think. I mean, just right off the bat, I think it's good to just do an audit of the site and start to track like what problems there are. Oftentimes it's qualitative. Oftentimes it's like, or people within organizations are like, I hate using the site because I can't, like we hear a lot of the same sort of quotes. It's like, I can't do anything. There's too labor intensive to do the simplest things. I have we have a vendor that we have to go to for simple changes and they charge us every single time. That's kind of like the first step is just recognizing, okay, this is not working for us. And then, we've actually created some content on this too. It's like, how do you create a proper brief when you go out to ask vendors to quote on some work? And it's really about documentation, like figuring out what it is that you don't like, what you're trying to do, what are the goals, where are the pain points, just having like a general audit. Even if you are not ready to spend the money on a redesign, it's good to just have that document as sort of like an ongoing ledger of what's happening with this product and what issues you're facing, basically, along with cost. Sometimes the costs are astronomical for a really bad site.
Yeah.
Like shockingly expensive for something. The ongoing costs are often like, we're just shocked.
Yeah. Some vendors just getting paid thousands of dollars a month to plug holes rather than deliver value. Like that's why we've tried to shape our retainers around this idea of a value-based retainer rather than just a technical retainer to fill that gap.
Or even hosting costs sometimes, if something has not been deployed well, you'd be blown away how much organizations are paying sometimes in just standard hosting costs monthly, and it's totally unnecessary.
Right.
And the audit that Marcello mentioned, one of the first steps we recommend to our prospects, if they are thinking about a redesign, but maybe the redesign is a next year thing, we suggest that they install Hotjar.
Okay.
Hotjar is this analytics tool where you can look at heat maps and replay user interactions. So while you're waiting to budget for this big redesign, you can actually be collecting data to inform that redesign eventually as well. So you start seeing where users aren't clicking, where they're clicking too much. There's you can see the scroll depth as well. Are they even scrolling down the page, or are they just getting stuck at the top? So having those analytics up front helps you as a business ask questions before you start the redesign.
Okay.
But I wouldn't stop there. Yeah, there's a free version.
So
Okay. Do you want to repeat that one more time in case our listeners didn't catch it the first time? It's called
Hotjar.
Hotjar. Okay. And there's
hot as in temperature and jar as in jam jar.
And there's a free and a paid version of it.
Yeah, I think you get quite a lot done with the free version. Just to get some data.
Yeah, it's just about data retention, really.
If someone, sorry, I'm interrupting you again, Simon.
All good. I was just gonna build on like one last point about the audit. Really talk to your users. Talk to your users, your vendors, your clients, and just get their candid feedback on your own site. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's the easiest thing. And also it's a good opportunity to re-engage them if you want. Right. So I think people are too worried to send an email or pick up the phone and ask those questions when they're going through that. But it is really important. You can't just hide behind an analytics tool because it's very blind, right? You want to get candid feedback, talk to the people who actually bought your services or who are using your product.
So a perfect example is if you are, say, a product vendor and you would go to your wholesale clients and ask them
Yeah,
for feedback.
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
Yeah. And that would help drive your B2B business and your relaunch.
Yeah. It'll give you a lot of information.
Is there anything else you want to share with our viewers before I ask you how they can connect with you if they want to start a conversation offline, maybe ask you some more questions, or have some potential projects they may want to consider with working with you?
Nothing. But
Nothing?
Yeah,
You got nothing?
Nothing else. I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Okay.
But if people do want to reach us, our website is www.designtennis.com.
Okay.
And we've got a podcast as well that
Yes.
we basically only talk about web and technology stuff on our podcast.
It's very
So
geeky. I do love
It's
it.
very specific to people that are in that
Indus-
world
yeah.
or using those tools.
Yep.
But I
Okay.
think there's a ton of really good. I mean, we try to gear it around like the corporate marketing teams, so to help them to just make better decisions, basically.
Okay.
And so it's very geared up towards that type of audience. But yeah, we have guests on there too, and
Okay. I will make sure that I include your website and your podcasts and everything that we've shared
awesome.
in the show
Thanks.
links. And thank you so much for this amazing chat today. Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of the Connected Media Podcast. And a big thank you to Marcello and Simon from Tennis for joining us. Remember, if you want to connect with them, all the links are in our show notes. If you like this episode, please subscribe or share it with someone. And remember, keep staying connected and keep telling the stories that matter.